Listen, there are certain behaviors so toxic that to endure them is to watch your identity erode in slow motion. Carl Jung might call these unacceptable or shadow behaviors, not because of some moral high ground, but because they act like assassins in the dark, silently destroying your self-worth and sense of self. They often come disguised as care, as humor, as normalcy, all while devouring your confidence from within. They are the quiet poison in relationships, the subtle knives that cut you and make you doubt if you're even bleeding. You felt it before, the uneasy feeling that what's being done to you isn't right, even if you can't quite name it. These behaviors masquerade as love or friendship or just joking, so you brush off the hurt. You tell yourself you're being sensitive. You tell yourself you need to tolerate it a bit longer. Meanwhile, piece by piece, these toxic patterns chip away at your spirit, leaving you a little more uncertain, a little more small. Make no mistake, every time you tolerate one of those shadow behaviors, you betray yourself. Jung's psychology of the shadow teaches that whatever we ignore or accept blindly sinks into our unconscious, and then it controls us. He warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In other words, if you don't confront these quiet evils, they will run your life from the shadows, and you will just chalk it up to fate or how things are. It's time to rip the masks off these behaviors and call them out for what they are. Your identity, your sanity, and your soul's well-being are at stake. Carl Jung spent his life exploring the darkness in us, the shadow, so that we could wake up and reclaim our lives from it. In that spirit, here are 5 insidious behaviors you must never tolerate. Each one pretends to be something innocent, but each one is a shadow weapon that will corrode your very being if you let it. Don't let it. Recognize them, confront them, and banish them from your life without mercy. Covert emotional manipulation, the invisible chains. It doesn't arrive shouting. It doesn't show up with visible chains or threats. Covert emotional manipulation comes wearing a concerned face and a gentle voice. It says, "I'm only doing this for you. I care about you. You know that." But behind those soft words are invisible strings, tightening around your soul. This is the friend who showers you with concern as a means to control you, the partner who plays the victim to make you feel guilty, the family member who says, "After all I've done, you owe me." They don't yell or demand outright. Instead, they pull your levers with guilt and subtle pressure until you're dancing to their tune without even realizing it. Imagine a scenario. You have plans tonight, but your friend suddenly texts saying they feel down, implying they might do something reckless if you're not there. Worried, you cancel your plans to comfort them. Next time you want a night to yourself, they remind you how fragile they were and how only you could help. Or think of the parent who says, "I sacrificed everything for you," whenever you assert independence, implying that your choices are selfish unless they approve. These are covert manipulators at work. They disguise control as care, playing on your fear, obligation, and guilt, the infamous fog. You end up thanking them for mistreating you. Here is what's really happening. A skilled emotional manipulator is methodically wearing down your self-worth and your trust in your own perceptions. Each little guilt trip or twisted favor makes you doubt yourself a bit more. You start second-guessing your decisions. Maybe I am being selfish. Maybe they're right and I'm wrong. You begin to compromise your values and ignore your needs just to keep them happy. Over time, they chip away at your identity and self-esteem until there is little left. You become a hollow version of who you once were, molded to fit their needs. Why would someone who loves you do this? Because in truth, their own shadow is pulling the strings. The manipulator's unconscious fears of losing control, of abandonment, of inadequacy, drive them to control you. They project their fear onto you and then try to manage it by managing you. Carl Jung would say that such a person is possessed by an unconscious need for power, acting out a covert domination game. They might not even fully realize that they're doing it, but that doesn't excuse it. They see your kindness, your empathy, and they exploit those as weaknesses. It's a predatory dance, and they count on you never shining a light on what's happening. So shine the light. See it for what it is. Not love, not friendship, but puppetry. The moment you recognize someone tugging at your emotions like strings, stop dancing. Confront them directly. Set a boundary that cannot be moved. You might fear losing them, but ask yourself, what are you really losing? A friend or your own freedom? If it's the latter, the choice is clear. Cut those invisible strings before they strangle who you are. Never tolerate covert manipulation. Not from a friend, not from a lover, not from family, not from anyone. Enough. Your heart is not a tool for someone else's agenda. Your kindness is not a weakness. No more quietly handing your will over to a hidden puppeteer. The price of peace should never be your self-respect. Reject emotional manipulation the instant you sense it, no matter how cleverly it's packaged as concern or love. In this silent war for control of your soul, declare your independence, walk away, and never look back. Humiliation disguised as humor, the poison joke. Can't you take a joke? They ask with a smirk. One of the most insidious behaviors is humiliation masquerading as humor. It's the cutting remark about your weight or intelligence said in front of an audience, followed by, "I'm just kidding, lighten up." The abuser gets to stab you in public and then laugh as if the stabbing were all in good fun. If you protest or show hurt, you are the problem. You have no sense of humor. This tactic is a double attack, first on your dignity, then on your right to feel hurt. Picture a so-called friend making you the butt of every joke at gatherings. "Oh, don't mind her, she's always clueless," he says, as everyone chuckles and you force a brittle smile. Or a partner who jokingly compares you to an animal, calls you embarrassing nicknames, mocks your aspirations, then claims innocence. "I didn't mean it, you're so sensitive." Each time you laugh along weakly or stay quiet, while inside your face burns with shame. And that's the key word, shame. Shame is the dagger they're really wielding. In fact, Jung warned that shame is a soul-eating emotion, and these people are trying to feed on your soul by making you feel ashamed of yourself. Think about what happens to you over time. Those jokes start to stick. You begin to believe that maybe you are less competent, less attractive, less worthy. You begin to preemptively humble yourself, making yourself the joke before anyone else can. Because if you say it first, maybe it won't hurt as much, right? It's a coping mechanism, but it's deadly to your spirit. Humiliation disguised as humor is nothing short of emotional abuse dressed up in a clown suit. It erodes your self-esteem while pretending to be harmless fun. And the crowd often plays along, which only reinforces your isolation. Public ridicule, under the guise of a joke, reinforces the abuser's power and leaves you feeling embarrassed, isolated, and powerless. Now, why do they do it? Because it works. Because it lets them assert dominance without looking like the bad guy. Often, this behavior is a projection of their own insecurity. Here is the twisted truth. They feel small, so they make you smaller. Psychology tells us, and Jung would agree, that those who inflict shame are often drowning in their own. Narcissistic personalities, for example, carry deep internal shame, and they cope by dumping it on others. By making you feel inadequate, they momentarily silence the voice of their own inadequacy. It's their shadow at work, their unresolved self-loathing projected onto you. But their inner struggle is not your responsibility, nor is it your burden to bear in the form of cruel jokes. So what do? You call it by its name. The next time someone shoots a barb at you and hides behind "just kidding," don't smile. Don't laugh it off. Look them in the eye and say, "I don't find that funny." Let the room go silent if it must. Let them feel a flicker of the embarrassment they try to dump on you. You don't owe anyone compliance in your own humiliation. If they really cared, they wouldn't enjoy laughing at your pain. So make it clear, your dignity is not a joke. Never tolerate it. A real friend, a real partner, will respect your boundaries when you say, "That hurt. Stop." An abuser will double down and accuse you of being too sensitive. Believe what you see. If they choose your cheap laughs over your dignity, choose to leave. There is no room in your life for people who must stand on your wounded self-esteem to feel tall. Humiliation is poison. Spit it out the moment it touches your tongue. As Jung might remind you, anything that alienates you from yourself, that fills you with corrosive shame, is a threat to your soul. You have the right to never hear the punchline of those cruel jokes again by walking away for good. Gaslighting, the war on your reality. This one is pure psychological warfare. Gaslighting is the act of twisting your perception of reality until you no longer trust your own mind. Imagine someone slowly turning off the lights in the room and insisting that you're crazy. The room isn't dark at all. That's gaslighting. It's insidious and terrifying, a favorite tool of manipulators and abusers. They lie about things you've seen with your own eyes. They deny conversations you know happened. They call you insane or paranoid for remembering the truth. Over time, you start to think, maybe you are losing it. After all, it's two conflicting realities, yours and theirs, and the gaslighter's goal is to make you abandon yours and live in theirs. Consider a common example. You confront your partner about them flirting openly at a party. They sneer and say, "What are you talking about? I was just being friendly. Stop being jealous, you're imagining things." Suddenly, you doubt yourself. Maybe you overreacted, or you recall them agreeing to something, but when you bring it up, they flatly say, "I never said that. You have a terrible memory." You find yourself apologizing for misunderstanding events that you actually remember clearly. At least you think you do. The more you argue, the more adamant and confident they become in their false version of events, until you surrender. This is a brainwashing technique. Gaslighting creates a false narrative and forces you to doubt your judgments and reality. The end result? You become emotionally dependent on the abuser, second-guessing everything and looking to them for the truth. It's a gradual theft of your reality, and with it, your sanity. Victims of gaslighting often feel like they're going crazy. You feel confused, anxious, powerless, and full of self-doubt. You start to question even simple decisions or memories. Did I really forget? Did I actually say that or do that? Or am I just being irrational? The gaslighter will happily answer those questions for you. Yes, you are irrational. Yes, you're forgetful. Yes, you are the problem. And each time you accept their answer, your inner voice gets weaker. You begin to live entirely in their story. This is beyond just lying. It's mental domination. Why would someone do this? Power and control. Plain and simple. A gaslighter is often deeply insecure or fearful inside, but they compensate by gaining total psychological control over another person. By controlling the narrative of your life, they feel important, even godlike. In some cases, as Jung might suggest, they cannot face their own reality or shadow, so they rewrite yours instead. Gaslighting can also be a learned behavior from their own past, or a symptom of narcissistic or antisocial personalities. But again, their reason is not your concern. Your concern is survival and escape. Carl Jung valued the sanctity of an individual's psyche. To him, mind games that shatter a person's reality would be a crime against the soul. So what can you do if you suspect this is happening? Trust yourself. This is easier said than done when your confidence is in tatters, but it's vital. Start keeping a journal of events and conversations so you have a record to consult. Seek an outside perspective from someone you trust. An objective voice can affirm that you're not imagining things. When the gaslighter says, "You're crazy," counter it with, "No, this is what I remember, and my feelings are valid." Do not concede your reality. The more they insist you doubt yourself, the more firmly you must plant your feet in the truth. Gaslighting only works if you start believing the lies. So draw a line. My mind is my own. If the person refuses to respect that line, if they will not stop the constant lying, contradicting, and reality twisting, then you must remove yourself from the situation. It might feel like walking away into uncertainty, but understand that any reality you craft for yourself alone is better than living in someone else's twisted illusion. Never tolerate gaslighting. The instant you recognize the pattern, when apologies only ever seem to come from you, when every argument ends with you doubting yourself, call it out. Say, "Stop. I know what I saw. I know what I heard. I will not accept this revision of reality." Good people might realize and back off. True gaslighters will double down or rage. That's your cue to leave for good. You are not anyone's pawn in a psychological chess game. Your perception is valid. Your feelings are real. Don't let anyone write you out of your own story or convince you that you're insane. You are not. You are waking up to their deceit. Get out before they snuff out the lights completely. Chronic emotional invalidation, dimming your inner light. This one is quieter, but just as deadly to the soul. Chronic emotional invalidation. It's not one big attack, but a steady drip of dismissals that over time hollows you out. This is the person who consistently denies the legitimacy of your feelings. You say you're sad, they respond, "Oh, stop being so dramatic." You express anger, they chide, "You're overreacting." You share a joy, they sneer, "Why do you even care about that?" Invalidation can be as blatant as name-calling, "You're crazy to feel that way," or as subtle as the eye roll when you open up. The message is always the same. Your feelings are wrong. Your perspective doesn't matter. Consider a partner or parent who never once says, "I understand." Instead, every time you're hurt or upset, they find a way to tell you that you shouldn't feel what you're feeling. If you're hurt because they forgot your birthday, they respond, "Wow, you're really making a big deal out of nothing. Grow up." If you're anxious about something at work, they say, "Seriously? That's what you're worried about? You need to toughen up." Over time, especially if this started in childhood, you internalize that message. You begin to doubt the reality of your own emotions. You feel a pang of sadness or anger and immediately chastise yourself. "I'm being stupid. I have no right to feel this way." You become alienated from your own inner world, and that is a profound loss. In Jungian terms, you're cutting off a vital connection to your unconscious, because emotions, as Jung said, are messages from the deep self. If someone trains you to ignore those messages, you essentially become disconnected from your soul's guidance. The effects of long-term invalidation are devastating. Research in psychology has found that people who grow up with their reality dismissed or mocked often end up with chronic insecurity, depression, and an unstable sense of identity. How could it be otherwise? If you've been conditioned to believe that your feelings and needs don't matter, you approach the world as a second-class citizen in your own life. You may struggle to form healthy relationships because you assume no one will care about your feelings. After all, the people who loved you taught you that. You might either avoid emotional intimacy altogether, or ironically overreact in high-drama ways, because you never learned healthy expression. Some who were ignored learned that only an extreme outburst will get any attention. Invalidation can even create narcissistic or borderline traits in some, as studies suggest, because a child who is persistently invalidated might develop wild coping mechanisms or a false grandiose self to shield the deeply hurt true self. In short, Chronic invalidation is not tough love or just being honest. It's emotional cruelty, and it scars deeply. From a Jungian viewpoint, a person who chronically invalidates others is often rejecting in you what they can't accept in themselves. Perhaps they've been taught to repress their own vulnerability, so seeing yours makes them uncomfortable. They squash it in you because they're really at war with it inside themselves. Or they're so self-absorbed, shadowed by their own ego, that they genuinely cannot empathize. Regardless, their inability or unwillingness to honor feelings does not mean your feelings are invalid. Your emotions are real, and they have meaning. Jung believed that if we don't listen to our emotions, they go into the shadow and then control us in negative ways. For example, repeatedly swallowing your anger can lead it to explode later or turn inward as self-hate. Repressing sadness can morph into numbness or sudden breakdowns. The psyche will not be denied forever. So what is the antidote? Boundaries and self-validation. First, recognize what's happening. Realize that you are not crazy or oversensitive for having feelings. You are human. The very fact you doubt that is proof of how thoroughly you've been invalidated. Next, when someone dismisses you, assert yourself. My feelings are my own, and they are valid. You don't have to agree or understand, but you will not call me crazy. It takes courage to say this, especially if you've never done it before. But it's like breaking a spell. The first time you firmly defend your right to feel, you reclaim a piece of your soul. Notice how the invalidator reacts. A caring person will soften and perhaps listen. An abusive person will ramp up the invalidation or ridicule. That's your sign to enforce consequences. Maybe you end the conversation. Maybe you distance yourself from that person. Invalidation is a form of disrespect, and you do not have to tolerate disrespect, even from family. Also, start validating yourself internally. When you feel something, pause and acknowledge it. I feel upset right now, and that's okay. There is a reason for it. Treat your inner child as you wish someone else had treated you, with compassion and understanding. Over time, you'll strengthen your own sense of reality. You'll be able to say, like Jung, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. And you will choose to become someone who honors their own heart. Never tolerate the chronic dismissal of your emotions. The cost is simply too high. If a partner, friend, or parent cannot meet you with basic empathy or at least respect, that is not a relationship where you can thrive. It will starve you emotionally. You are allowed to insist on being heard. In fact, you must. Your inner light will dim to darkness if you stay in a room that forbids it to shine. So step out. Seek those who welcome your light, your joy, your sadness, your realness. Jung said that to be unconditionally yourself is the greatest accomplishment. You cannot do that if you're constantly told that yourself is wrong. So stand up and say, my feelings matter, because I matter, and walk away from anyone who cannot accept that fundamental truth. Silent contempt, the wordless destruction. Not all abuse is loud. Sometimes it's a cold, deadly silence. Silent contempt is that withering look, that non-response, that air of you're nothing to me. It's when someone treats you as if you don't exist. No shouting, no name-calling, just I see nothing. In some ways, this is the most calculated, most devastating attack of all. Think of a gesture, an eye that doesn't meet yours, a sigh when you speak, a smile that never reaches the eyes, the surgical precision of ignoring you. They don't yell at you, they don't insult you, they simply erase you, and you're left there, screaming inside, wondering if you even count as a human being to this person. Maya Angelou once said, indifference and neglect often do much more damage than outright dislike. You feel this when someone gives you the silent treatment or perpetual contempt. Picture a husband who, after a minor argument, refuses to speak to his wife for a week. No explanation, no affection, just a wall of silence. She begs to know what's wrong, and he just looks through her. Or imagine you're pouring your heart out to a friend about something that excites or troubles you, and they respond with a patronizing half-smile and silence, as if to say, "Are you done?" That one contemptuous glance can make you trail off mid-sentence, suddenly questioning whether anything you say has value. In that moment, you feel utterly small. Contempt is aptly called the look that kills in relationships. Quiet, often unconscious, but devastatingly effective at eroding the basic respect that relationships need. The danger of silent contempt lies in its subtlety. Because there are no overt actions or words, you start doubting yourself, much like gaslighting's effect. Maybe I'm imagining their disdain. Maybe I'm really not worth listening to. Over time, you might respond by shrinking your presence. You speak less around the person. You avoid sharing good news or vulnerable feelings, because you expect that cold response. You tiptoe, constantly trying to earn a smile or a bit of warmth that never comes. Living under silent contempt is like living in a sunless world. Nothing grows there except insecurity and self-doubt. It erodes your identity and self-trust every single day. What's going on in the contemptuous person's mind? Often, a grotesque sense of superiority. Contempt says, "I'm above you. You are not worth consideration." According to relationship research, like the Gottman studies, contempt is the #1 predictor of breakups and divorce. It's essentially seeing the other person as beneath you. In Jungian terms, this is a shadow of arrogance. The person's inflated ego, or conversely their hidden inferiority complex, is projected as contempt towards you. They lack empathy. They might even take pleasure in your confusion and hurt. Some narcissistic individuals use the silent treatment as a form of control. It's emotional starvation. They know you'll dance like a puppet, twisting yourself in knots to try to please them or get them to acknowledge you again. It's a power play, pure and simple, and it's deeply cruel. Here is the hard truth. Someone who consistently treats you with silent contempt does not respect you. And without mutual respect, there is no relationship, only dominance and submission. Carl Jung said, "Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking." In a dynamic of contempt, power is predominating. The person is exercising a silent power over you, and love is nowhere to be found. So, how do you respond? First, break the silence on your end. Name it. "I feel like you're shutting me out and looking down on me. This is hurtful and not acceptable." Maybe they'll deny it or blame you. Typical. But you stated clearly for yourself as much as for them. Second, refuse to play along. If they won't communicate or show basic respect, stop chasing their approval. Don't beg. Don't plead for acknowledgement. That just feeds their ego. Instead, give them the silence, but not as a game or revenge, as a boundary. Sometimes the only move is to remove yourself from the arena entirely. If it's a short-term thing, say a temporary silent treatment, you can say, "I'm here to talk when you're ready to treat me with respect," and then disengage. If it's an ongoing attitude of contempt, recognize that you deserve so much better. You deserve to be with people who light up when you walk in the room, not people who make you feel like you're in the way. Never tolerate silent contempt. It will kill your spirit quietly if you let it. Human beings need to feel seen and heard. Denying that is dehumanizing. Demand to be treated with the basic dignity of a response and acknowledgement. And if someone cannot or will not give you that, you have the right to step away with your head held high. Think of it this way. By walking away, you're saying, "I refuse to be erased. I exist. I matter. and I will spend my energy where I'm valued. That is a powerful affirmation of self, and it's one Jung would certainly approve of. Individuation, the claiming of one's own life and worth, often requires leaving those who refuse to honor it. Leave the room where your presence is met with contemptuous silence. Do not linger trying to prove yourself. You are not nothing. No one has the right to make you feel you are. So take your dignity and walk out of the shadow of their silent scorn into the light of self-respect. Breaking the cycle, a Jungian call to arms. Now, step back and look at these 5 behaviors as a whole. What do you see? Covert manipulation, cruel humor, gaslighting, emotional invalidation, silent contempt. On the surface, they seem different. One hides behind kindness, another behind jokes, another behind concern or silence. But at their core, they are the same shadow. Each is a way for someone to steal a piece of you, your freedom, your dignity, your reality, your voice, your worth. Each one is a violation of the unspoken contract of human respect. Jung spent his life pulling back the veil on such darkness. He taught that the psyche has light and shadow, and these behaviors are pure shadow at work, often the unconscious devils driving human cruelty. Recognizing them for what they are is the first step to reclaiming your power. It's disturbing, isn't it, to realize that someone you thought cared about you was maybe using you, belittling you, or controlling you all along. It's a harsh light to turn on. You might feel anger, grief, or even guilt for tolerating it as long as you did. That's okay. Feel those things. They are evidence that your true self is waking up and saying, "This was wrong." Remember what we mentioned. Shame is a soul-eating emotion. Well, do not feel ashamed now for having endured these behaviors. The shame belongs with the perpetrators, not you. What you should feel now is empowerment and clarity. Jungian psychology is all about turning darkness into light, taking what was unconscious and making it conscious. Now you see the truth, and with that sight comes the power to change your fate. You have a choice in front of you now. Perhaps for the first time in a long time, you see the game that was being played on you. The covert manipulations, the subtle put-downs, the reality twisting, the disregard, the disdain. It's all out in the open. So ask yourself, what will I do with this knowledge? Will you sweep it under the rug and make excuses for the abuser? Will you tell yourself maybe it will get better and close your eyes again? Or will you draw a line and enforce it? This is the crossroads. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. But you are not people, you are you, and you are ready to face whatever you must to protect your soul. That might mean having one brutally honest conversation. It might mean leaving a relationship, changing a job, cutting off a toxic family member. These are not easy things. But what is the cost if you don't? The cost is your life on autopilot, lived under someone else's thumb, half asleep and full of pain. Remember, standing up to these behaviors is not just about calling out someone else's darkness. It's about honoring your own light. By refusing to tolerate cruelty, you send a powerful message to your unconscious mind. I am worthy. I deserve respect. I choose to be whole. That shift is profound. It's the moment you stop being a victim and start being the author of your story. It might feel lonely or scary at first. Breaking away from toxic dynamics often does. But clarity is worth the price. As the saying goes, it's better to walk alone than with a crowd going in the wrong direction. And you won't be alone for long. When you hold firm to self-respect, you start attracting others who respect you too. If you stay still, you fall back to sleep. And if you fall back to sleep, you know what awaits you. Another life on autopilot. Before closing, leave one sentence in the comments. Not a reaction, not a slogan. One brutally honest sentence that marks the moment you stopped lying to yourself. Disappear. Live. And when you're ready, come back. I'll be waiting, where I always am. On the edge, where it all begins.